Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news that is drawing global attention. A major trade escalation has been announced between the United States and Canada, with the U.S. signaling potential economic measures if current trade agreements are not revised. Sectors such as steel, aluminum, automobiles, and agriculture may be affected. In response, Canada has introduced countermeasures that surprised market observers and policymakers. Financial markets reacted immediately, with fluctuations in stock prices and adjustments to supply chain expectations. Analysts emphasize that this development is about more than just tariffs. It involves strategic economic leverage, long-term trade stability, and the balance of cross-border relations. As governments, businesses, and investors closely monitor developments, the key question is how this situation will unfold and what it means for North American trade in the months ahead. Part 2. Trade Threat. Trade policy has become a focal point in the ongoing U.S.-Canada economic discussion. The U.S. announced the possibility of tariffs on key sectors, including steel, aluminum, automotive parts, and agriculture, citing concerns about trade imbalances and industry competitiveness. Supporters argue that such measures aim to protect domestic industries and reinforce economic stability. Critics caution that escalating tariffs could disrupt supply chains, increase costs, and create uncertainty for businesses that rely on integrated North American trade. Economists and policy experts note that even the announcement alone has influenced market behavior, prompting fluctuations and increased scrutiny from investors. While the full economic impact is still being assessed, this development has highlighted the complex interdependencies of the U.S. and Canadian economies. Observers are closely watching for responses, negotiations, and potential adjustments to avoid prolonged economic disruption while maintaining open channels for trade dialogue. Part 3. Context on Canada. Canada and the United States have a long history of economic cooperation, yet periodic trade disputes have occasionally arisen. Issues such as dairy quotas, lumber exports, and manufacturing standards have been points of discussion. From the U.S. perspective, some industries are seeking greater access or more balanced terms. Canada emphasizes that existing trade agreements are mutually beneficial and compliant with international regulations. This recent escalation has brought these long-standing issues into sharper focus, with economic and political implications on both sides of the border. Analysts suggest that careful observation and negotiation will be essential to prevent broader disruption. Businesses, policymakers, and international investors are monitoring developments closely, recognizing that decisions made now may influence trade practices and economic relations for years. The unfolding situation underscores the importance of diplomacy, clear communication, and measured responses in managing complex trade partnerships. Part 4. Canada's response. Rather than taking a reactive stance, Canada has introduced strategic measures in response to the announced U.S. trade actions. These measures are designed to mitigate potential economic impacts and protect key industries, while signaling a commitment to maintaining fair and balanced trade. Canadian officials have emphasized that national interests are a priority, while also seeking to minimize disruptions to businesses and supply chains. In parallel, Canada is continuing to diversify trade relationships with other international partners, demonstrating long-term strategic planning. Observers note that these measures were carefully calculated and convey a message of economic resilience. Analysts point out that this is not merely symbolic. The actions reflect a measured approach to protecting domestic industries while engaging in broader trade negotiations. The evolving situation highlights the importance of strategic decision-making and underscores how closely trade policy is linked to economic stability and international collaboration. The response in Washington was swift, with lawmakers and government officials closely monitoring the situation. Many expressed surprise at the rapid measures announced by Canadian authorities, noting potential effects on U.S. industries that rely on cross-border supply chains. Analysts emphasize that this situation highlights the challenges of balancing domestic economic priorities with international trade commitments. Observers note that policymakers must navigate complex considerations, maintaining stability in trade relations while ensuring that businesses and consumers are not unduly affected. Economic advisors and business groups are reviewing potential impacts and contingency plans. The situation also underscores the interconnected nature of North American economies, where decisions in one country can have ripple effects across industries and markets. Tonight, markets, business leaders, and policymakers remain alert as they evaluate potential outcomes and work to maintain continuity and stability in trade and economic cooperation. Part 6. Market Response. Financial markets reacted promptly to recent developments in U.S.-Canada trade relations. Stocks in manufacturing, agriculture, and transportation sectors experience fluctuations, reflecting investor uncertainty. The Canadian dollar also showed volatility as traders reassessed exposure to cross-border supply chains. Economists note that even moderate trade adjustments could increase costs for consumers and affect investment decisions. Many companies are implementing contingency plans to mitigate potential disruption, and analysts stress that uncertainty alone can impact market confidence. Observers highlight the broader implications, as markets in Europe and Asia are also monitoring developments closely. While trade adjustments are a normal policy tool, the uncertainty surrounding potential escalation can be equally significant. Tonight, the economic stakes are high, and investors, businesses, and policymakers are closely watching developments for any signs of stabilization or further changes in trade policy. Part 7. Impact on workers. The potential effects on workers are an important consideration in this trade situation. Many U.S. factories rely on imported materials and components, so changes in trade measures could affect production costs and influence employment. Labor organizations and industry groups are analyzing the potential impact, with some emphasizing the need for protections while others caution about unintended consequences. Economists highlight that trade adjustments can have ripple effects across multiple sectors, including manufacturing, agriculture, and industrial production. Business decisions regarding pricing, employment, and supply chain management may also be influenced by these developments. Policymakers are weighing the balance between supporting domestic employment and ensuring economic stability. Public sentiment and industry feedback are likely to shape future decisions. Tonight, the focus is on understanding how these measures might affect workers and the broader economy, and whether adjustments can be made to minimize disruption while maintaining strong trade relationships. Part 8. Impact on Canadian economy. Canada's economy faces potential challenges as trade developments continue to unfold. With significant economic integration between Canada and the U.S., changes in trade policies could influence exports, manufacturing, and employment. Canadian officials emphasize that protecting long-term economic stability is a priority, while also working to minimize any short-term disruption. Efforts to diversify trade partnerships with other countries, including in Europe and Asia, are underway to strengthen resilience. Public support in Canada appears strong, reflecting confidence in the government's approach to safeguarding economic interests. Analysts suggest that these strategies may serve as a model for managing cross-border economic pressures. While temporary volatility is expected, Canadian authorities are implementing measures designed to maintain stability and continuity in trade. Tonight, the focus remains on monitoring economic trends, assessing potential impacts, and ensuring that the Canadian economy can adapt effectively to changes in the trade environment. This trade situation involves more than just economics. It also highlights the complex interplay of policy and strategy on both sides. Decisions about trade measures are influenced by multiple factors, including public perception, industry feedback, and long-term economic goals. Policymakers in both countries are considering how to maintain strong trade relationships while protecting domestic economic interests. Observers note that negotiations often continue behind closed doors, with careful attention to timing and potential impact. The balance between achieving policy objectives and minimizing disruption to businesses, consumers, and supply chains is delicate. Analysts emphasize that while trade adjustments can serve specific economic goals, they must also account for broader implications for cross-border commerce and long-term cooperation. Tonight, stakeholders are watching closely as both governments navigate these complex considerations, seeking solutions that support economic stability and maintain strong international trade relationships. Part 10. Diplomatic implications. The trade developments are drawing attention from international observers and governments around the world. European and Asian markets are monitoring the situation, concerned about potential disruptions to trade and investment. Although official diplomatic channels remain open, analysts note that tensions can affect broader cooperation, including strategic and economic partnerships. Trade measures of this scale rarely remain purely economic. They can influence regional collaboration, planning, and long-term agreements. Observers suggest that the current standoff also serves as an example for other nations evaluating economic and policy strategies in a globally connected environment. Resolving the situation will require careful management, with policymakers balancing domestic economic priorities, international obligations, and market stability. Tonight, global stakeholders continue to monitor developments closely, understanding that decisions made now could have wider implications for trade norms, economic stability, and international collaboration for years to come. Part 11. Historical context. This situation reflects patterns seen in previous trade negotiations and policy adjustments. Historically, trade measures such as tariffs have been used to encourage revisions in agreements or address economic imbalances. Past actions have had varying effects on market stability, business costs, and cross-border commerce. While some measures contributed to realignment of trade relationships, others resulted in temporary disruption and uncertainty. Observers note that the current developments are drawing greater international attention, highlighting the interconnected nature of modern trade. Lessons from earlier events underscore the importance of careful planning and risk assessment. Analysts are considering whether strategies applied in the past will be effective in the current context, and what adjustments might be necessary to minimize economic disruption while achieving policy objectives. Tonight, the focus is on understanding how historical experience can inform responses to ensure trade stability and continued collaboration between North American partners. Part 12. Legal and regulatory considerations. Experts highlight that trade adjustments may involve complex legal and regulatory dimensions. Changes in tariffs or trade measures could be subject to review under international trade agreements and established frameworks, potentially involving arbitration or formal dispute resolution mechanisms. Legal compliance and adherence to agreed rules are important to ensure fair outcomes and maintain predictability for businesses. Analysts note that even the perception of legal risk can influence corporate decisions, affecting supply chains, contracts, and investment planning. Policymakers are navigating these regulatory considerations alongside economic and strategic factors, aiming to implement measures that are both effective and consistent with international obligations. Tonight, the legal dimension adds complexity to the ongoing trade situation, underscoring the importance of careful planning, adherence to established procedures, and monitoring potential outcomes. Observers are watching closely to see how regulatory and legal frameworks shape the resolution of these developments. Integrated supply chains across North America make recent trade developments particularly significant. Many manufacturers rely on materials and components that cross the border multiple times before final assembly, meaning even minor disruptions could affect industries such as automotive, technology, and manufacturing. Companies are reviewing contingency plans, adjusting production schedules, and exploring alternative suppliers to mitigate potential risks. Analysts note that changes in trade measures can increase costs, delay deliveries, and impact employment across multiple sectors. Beyond direct operational effects, investor confidence and long-term planning may also be influenced. Modern supply chains are highly interconnected and finely tuned, so sudden adjustments in trade policy can have amplified consequences. Both countries are carefully weighing economic impacts and the potential effects on businesses. Tonight, the focus is on understanding how trade developments might influence operations, supply continuity, and economic stability for industries and markets across North America. Part 14. Energy sector impact. Energy trade is a key component of North American economic integration, and developments in trade policy could affect this sector. Canada is a significant supplier of oil, gas, and electricity to the United States, making cross-border energy flows essential for regional markets. Any adjustments to trade measures could influence energy prices, production planning, and investment decisions. Analysts emphasize that energy infrastructure and market stability are closely linked, and even temporary uncertainty can impact commodity pricing and futures markets. Policymakers are monitoring developments to ensure supply reliability while maintaining effective trade operations. Observers note that the energy sector is particularly sensitive to policy changes because of its integration into broader industrial and commercial activities. Tonight, experts highlight the importance of maintaining continuity and cooperation in energy trade to support regional economic stability, safeguard supply chains, and minimize potential disruption to prices and infrastructure projects. Part 15: Agricultural Sector Impact. Agricultural producers on both sides of the border are particularly sensitive to trade developments. Exports such as dairy, grains, and livestock products depend heavily on cross-border markets, meaning policy changes can have immediate effects on income, employment, and local economies. Historical experience shows that agricultural markets can be slow to adjust to trade disruptions, and even short-term measures can create uncertainty for producers. Industry associations and trade groups are actively monitoring developments and seeking guidance to minimize impact on supply chains. Analysts highlight that agricultural producers are often on the front lines of economic ripple effects from trade adjustments. Maintaining clarity and stability in trade policy is critical to prevent unnecessary disruption to food production and distribution. Tonight, the focus is on how agricultural sectors are adapting to changing trade dynamics and the measures both governments are taking to support continuity and economic resilience for farmers and related industries. Part 16: Public Sentiment. Public perception is an important factor in how trade developments are interpreted and addressed. In both Canada and the United States, citizens and businesses are paying close attention to how policy decisions may affect employment, prices, and market stability. Surveys suggest that stakeholders are evaluating the potential impact on industries and cross-border trade, influencing broader expectations for economic outcomes. Media coverage and social discussion amplify awareness and can shape understanding of risks and opportunities. Analysts note that public sentiment can play a role in policy decision-making, as leaders consider the effects of trade developments on communities, businesses, and economic confidence. Tonight, monitoring public perception helps provide insight into how industries, markets, and policymakers may respond in the coming weeks. The focus remains on understanding trends in opinion, assessing potential economic consequences, and maintaining communication to support confidence and stability across North American markets. Media coverage plays an important role in how trade developments are understood by the public and businesses. News outlets across North America and internationally are reporting on policy updates, potential market impacts, and industry responses. Coverage can influence investor expectations, business planning, and public awareness, highlighting the importance of accurate and balanced reporting. Analysts note that media narratives may shape perceptions, but policymakers rely primarily on economic data, regulatory frameworks, and trade analyses when making decisions. International reporting also examines potential global ramifications, including shifts in market confidence and cross-border commerce. Tonight, the focus is on understanding how public information shapes awareness and decision-making, providing insight for businesses, governments, and investors. Observers emphasize that while headlines attract attention, the underlying economic trends and policy details are critical for assessing potential outcomes and supporting informed decision-making across North American markets. Part 18: Negotiations and Strategic Discussions. Behind the public announcements, ongoing discussions and negotiations are taking place between trade officials, diplomats, and industry representatives. These discussions aim to explore solutions that minimize economic disruption while maintaining continuity in trade and investment. Analysts highlight that confidential negotiations are often where meaningful progress is achieved, even as public reporting focuses on statements and announcements. Business leaders are monitoring developments closely, providing input to help protect supply chains and operational stability. Policymakers must balance transparency with the need for effective negotiation, ensuring that decisions are based on data, market realities, and strategic considerations. Observers note that miscommunication or misinterpretation of early reports can create temporary uncertainty in markets. Tonight, while the public sees headlines, behind-the-scenes efforts are critical for shaping practical outcomes that support economic stability and maintain strong North American trade relationships. Part 19. Global Trade Implications. Recent developments in North American trade are drawing attention from governments and markets worldwide. Analysts note that how these issues are resolved could influence global trade practices and set examples for handling cross-border economic challenges. Emerging economies are observing closely, evaluating strategies for protecting domestic industries while navigating trade pressures. International investors are also adjusting portfolios and recalibrating risk assessments in response to uncertainty. Experts emphasize that modern trade relationships are highly interconnected, meaning developments in one region can affect markets, supply chains, and investment patterns globally. Tonight, the US-Canada situation serves as a case study in how integrated economies respond to policy adjustments. Observers highlight the importance of cooperation, clear communication, and stable frameworks to maintain confidence in trade networks. Understanding these dynamics is essential for businesses, governments, and international markets navigating a complex and interconnected economic environment. Part 20. Economic Forecast. Economists are closely monitoring potential impacts from recent North American trade developments. Prolonged uncertainty could slow economic growth, increase costs for consumers, and disrupt integrated supply chains across multiple industries. Analysts also note the potential for price adjustments in key sectors, which could affect production costs and inflationary trends. Investor confidence may be influenced by how quickly policy measures and trade negotiations are clarified. While short-term effects are measurable, longer-term consequences could include adjustments in trade integration, competitiveness, and industrial planning. Policymakers are encouraged to consider both immediate and strategic implications, balancing economic stability with effective policy implementation. Tonight, the economic outlook emphasizes the importance of monitoring markets, supply chains, and trade developments closely. Businesses, workers, and investors are paying attention to decisions and signals that could shape economic trends, market stability, and cross-border commerce over the coming months.